During my career as a student, when I was younger, I didn't really find my way. I was the kind of student that would always start studying the last day before the big exams, and then that worked until a certain point, and then it didn't work anymore. I had a lot of fear of failure because of my perfectionism, probably, and yeah, I dropped out when I was 17, and then I started studying later on in life. So I think the purpose of what Dominique is doing and the value of it is basically very important for people like us who may not fit the box as is required sometimes,
The
and
proverbial box, that goddamn box.
What did I say?
I said the proverbial box, that goddamn box.
Yeah, sorry. And so I think it's very important for people to be empowered in their own choices and what they do see as valuable and which goals they personally want to use, and not the ones or pursue, and not the ones that are kind of pushed upon us. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. The next question is, what is your education history? And Ianthe, you're gonna take it away. But before you do, I just wanted to respond really quickly to what you said, if it's okay.
Sure.
Just formulating my thoughts. It's interesting because when you said people like us, and I knew what you meant, and I think that it's hard to explain really what that is, you know, because it's not really an us and them thing. I think especially when it comes to any kind of neurodivergence, any kind of disability, even any kind of just difference, just generally, whether it's any kind of identity that you look at, any kind of difference at all, there's a certain perspective that comes with it. Do you hear that, dog?
Yeah, I hear it. It's not mine this time.
She's mad. She's mad right now. She's like, you listen to me right now. I find it really interesting that there is kind of this camp of people for whom school structure and external instruction is so useful, and it works, and it's good, and it's like my mom loved school. She loved school. She had a great time. She went to a school. She made friends that she still to this day is friends with. And in fact, I'm friends with their children. That's like mom number 2, 3, whatever, you know. School is important and impossible, in my opinion. I said that to a teacher friend of mine this morning. I said, what you do is important and impossible. And I just find it so wildly fascinating that there is a camp of people for whom they are more not capable necessarily, but they lean more toward enjoying and finding it fruitful to get that external instruction, to get that external motivation, even perhaps to a certain extent. And there are other people for whom that is like, I'm allergic to that. Like, don't even talk to me about that right now. Like, don't look at me with it. It's so. I can't even really, and that's the thing. It's hard to explain. I think it's hard to because I'm thinking about it from the perspective of somebody else, and it's so hard to explain. Yeah. So that was just the thoughts that came up in response to what you shared about your background story, and so yeah, if you could share more about your education history and what that was like. I mean, I guess you kind of already alluded to it, but maybe, and what have you found over the years?
I think when I was at a really young age already, I really used to hate school. I mean, much more when I was a small child, I would really protest, not want to go, you know, that kind of got it. I guess what's the word? I kind of adapted more when I got older because that was expected, you know, but I really hated school from a really young age. And I don't know, it's that went, I mean, in what how do you call it in like America, what comes before high school?
Middle school.
Middle school, yeah. So I think
That
that's
is the time. That is the
yeah.
that is the time. That is the time, and it is a time, and oh boy.
Yeah, so I think trouble kind of started showing up in there, and then I remember going to high school and mostly just there was really not any direction that I was very interested in that was a possibility, and they were like, you know, what I wanted to do was work with my hands basically, but then because I had the intellectual capacity, I shall say, to pursue more academic oriented way, I was kind of expected to do that, and I did that, and I was very unhappy in it, and it gave me huge amounts of stress because of, like I said before, perfectionism. And then yeah, I think about it, the third year of high school, I started developing an eating disorder, and you know, like depression, of course not only because of school or something like that, but just I think it definitely was a factor that attributed to that, and that led eventually to, in my 5th year of high school, that I dropped out. I started working when I was 18, so I didn't have a degree, and then when I was 24, I would have to look back into what year exactly it was. I started college basically again while doing internships, working, and then I got my degree as an educator. So that's mostly the educational background. Yeah.
So you're an educator that hated school. Is that correct?
Yeah. I also heard you
Me too.
talk about
And
that. Yeah.
tell me something interesting. Have you connected with students over this?
You mean within at that
The
time at
people
school?
who
Or
the people who you've served as an educator. Have you ever, maybe not explicitly, but have you ever connected, either understood or expressed, and they resonated, or have you, because for me, I bring it up for context. I bring it up because I have found that my relationship with school and health and the world, my alternative way of thinking. When the right student needs to hear it, when the right learner needs the right person, not even learner, just people. Sometimes I find that this perspective of like, because I also am a high school dropout, right? I also really I struggled with school, and then I adapted, and then I failed to adapt, and then you know this and that and the other. And I also actually dropped out of my 5th year exactly of high school, and I again dropped out of City College, and then went on to get my master's, and now I'm an educator. And I'm just like I'm wondering if you've ever had the experience of working with, or just connecting with someone where they are like, wow, your story really, like, thank you for sharing it, because I really needed to hear that somebody else has this story?
I wouldn't say so, in the
Well,
sense.
then consider me the first.
No, I think it kind of depends. Like, I mean, I never really had clients, I shall say, that was obviously like something they struggled with, or a big problem in their life, or something they wanted to deal with differently. Of course, yeah, people that were kind of looking into which direction they wanted to go in, but never really that message of, this isn't working for me, I don't want this. It's probably because, I worked with younger children in residential setting. In that sense, that was actually rarely mentioned by the children themselves.
It's yeah, I've mostly worked with middle schoolers and high schoolers. The majority of my 14 years of experience have been with middle and high school. A little college, a little, I've worked with kids as young as 4, but they are more expressive and able to articulate, like, this is, I don't want to do this, and like, either here's why or here's how I'm going to show you. Whereas a 4-year-old, I have seen 4-year-olds express that they're not interested in whatever educational program they're a part of. I was at a school earlier this year, and this little girl went to the nurse, and dad came to pick her up. And I'm not sure if she was 4, but she looked about 4. And she was really upset. And she kept saying, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back. I think that means she doesn't want to come back. I don't know. Maybe, perhaps it was a really bad day, and that was it. It was just a bad day, and we can get through it. But I do think it's worth listening to, and it's worth considering. Those were words that were spoken, and yes, a heat of the moment, but like, maybe there's something really to that we need to really look at, and especially if it happens again and again. Then
I was gonna say, yeah, if this is something that repeats itself, like, for a longer period of time, it is definitely something that has to be, looked into, listened to, because this takes a toll. If children, or it doesn't really matter what age, are really unhappy at school, like, it's gonna take a toll, over the years or over time. It's gonna have a backlash. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we both know about that. Yeah. How would you describe off the beaten path learning, and the value that you see from, and I should say to whoever's watching, like, Ianthe has never been a learner and is not a client, right? So she comes as a person that is interested in digital marketing, and is working with off the beaten path learning to promote and share the word, spread the good word, right? But she's not seen the experience firsthand, right? Like you're not a bug on the wall when these meetings are happening, kind of thing, right? But from what you understand, could you describe off the beaten path learning?
So how I see off the beaten path learning is a way of learning that is self-directed, that mainly starts from what the client or the learner wants to achieve, what they are interested in, and how they can achieve their goals through self-directed learning, basically. So the value of it for me is, I think it's really important to listen to people and to what their passions are, what their interests are. And I think also a big part of the value is your own experience with your personal experiences with certain struggles regarding like more standard methods of education. So your background in that definitely as well, and yeah, the choice and the empowerment aspect, of course, which I think can make individuals grow in a way that they might not in a system that doesn't work for them, basically.
Yeah, I would yeah, thank you. I would say I would describe it similarly. You know, it's the only thing I would add, I guess, is the one-on-one factor.
Oh yeah.
But I would, so right, so Off the Beaten Path is one-on-one, very highly personalized. So it is usually virtual. 100% of the learners have been virtual at least once, but some of the learners have been in person at least once, if not regularly. So it's really personalized as to like, what are you doing? What are you working on? Is it breakdancing? Is it filmmaking? Is it dance? Is it writing? Is it professional development? Because we work with adults. And then that one-on-one relationship between the perfectly matched educator who is really trained in the art of listening and respecting the learner and where they're at and what they're trying to do. And they work together one-on-one. And so it's two heads on not only just one person, but one person's one goal, right? For as long as that goal remains to be the goal. And so I like to say it's not rocket science. And this kind of goes into the next question, how does it work? It's not rocket science in the sense that it's two heads dedicated to one ambition in system and person. And so, and one of those heads is a qualified educator that is that understands the process of growing and learning and how to achieve those goals, how to get to those goals, how to demonstrate learning, how to reflect, and etc. Right? I want to double down on what you said about where I come from being a valuable aspect of off the beaten path learning. I think that not everybody that I've worked with, so at this point, I and the other educator, NK, who was a part of Off the Beaten Path Learning, we worked with 19 learners thus far. And of those, I would say not everybody, but most of the learners. Oh wait, I lost my train of thought. Hold on, let me try to remember. Most of the learners, what point was I going to make? Oh yeah, most of the learners I think have really resonated with my perspective. And I don't always share it explicitly, but even with the learners who get it, I think they just sense it. I think they just kind of, they know it. They like smell it on me or something, you know, like they know that I'm the kind of person that understands the importance of choosing out of necessity, because the choice that's the default is not the choice for me. And needing support in making an alternative decision, and needing support in not just making it, but making it well, getting the best results. Going against the grain is so difficult. You need support. You need support. Everybody deserves a one-on-one. When I had an accountability coach, we did an exchange. So I was his coach for a while. He was my coach for a while. When I had him to work with, it was wonderful. The impact it made on my life. Everything was just kind of cleaner, more cinched up, less loose ends, more organized, more clear. it made a lasting impact. So even when we stopped working together, like the habits kind of continued, you know. So that's how I would describe Off the Beaten Path very similarly, and I would say that my particular perspective of like not just the struggles but the successes, right? So like getting the master's that was self-directed and finding that program and then accept all the things. All right, so you ready? You ready for the next question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How does it work? And again, this is just from your perspective, right? So what do you understand?
Yeah, I guess we kind of partly described it in the former question. So the one-on-one aspect, of course, which is very important. I think kind of analyzing together with the learner, or whether that's an adult or a child, like what they want to achieve through this personalized approach, and the main interests they want to pursue. I think that can be big long-term goals or smaller short-term goals. I think it can be both or one of the two. Yeah, and I think mostly listening to the guidance, I guess, of the client. And I think in your position, you assist them in that, and yeah, hold them accountable when necessary, or motivate them when necessary. I think, it's like a partnership type of thing, to because you say before, going against the grain is so difficult, and I think it's true, because yeah, quite literally, it's off the beaten path, so it's not a paved road, so in that sense, as you say, it's not rocket science. Like, it's different for everyone, and I think it can look completely different for everyone. I mean, the approach will be the same, but the outcome and the goals and things like that can be completely different, and on different levels. Yeah.
Yeah, that was hell yeah, that was pretty on the money for someone that hasn't experienced it firsthand. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your understanding of how it works. I would say off beaten path learning. I would add to that and say off beaten path learning just to give some examples from my perspective of how what Ianthe just said is like actually like happens. It's definitely very differentiated, very personalized, as well it should be if it's self-directed.
Mm-hmm.
And on the overall, there's this. It's one-on-one. Usually there are cycles that we go through. Usually 4 months is the average, like what the most of the learners have managed to accomplish some big goal in about 4 months. Some of the learners choose to walk away after that period. Some come back. Some learners keep going for years or a year or something like that. Again, very differentiated, very personalized. And I just wanted to give a couple of examples of what this kind of weekly coaching, weekly mentorship looks like.
Mm-hmm.
With a little one, the littlest, I don't know, she might be mad if I said littlest, actually. The youngest learner that I worked with was the daughter of another learner, actually. And for her, holding her accountable and digging deeper into what she was interested in, a lot of that took the form of video games and conversation, and just like reading about the books we were, or talking about the books we were reading. It was, I think, her mom's goal for her was different than her goal for her, and I tried to be very explicit and clear that what we're working off is the learner's direction. However, I think I try to be open with the learner. If someone that really cares about them and is their authority figure wants this thing for them that they're not so explicitly interested in, right? I just want to relay that this is a part of the conversation that we're having, that it's in the back of my mind, that I try to integrate it in such a way, right? So for her in particular, and I have like Instagram content on this, if you want to, the viewers here want to like dig deep and find that the horse collages and the kind of social and emotional drawings that we did on Canva, like do so. But I think for her it was a lot about having conversations about friends, friendship, how to, bullying, what is that like? What does that look like? How do I respond? Power dynamics in the classroom. How do I be clever with friends? That was her goal. How do I be clever with friends? And she ended up being able to read, actually. She ended up within just a few months going from not independently reading to independently reading. 8 years old, boom, boom. It was like, it felt amazing to me because I don't get to see that a lot. I don't work with that age group a lot. But I was like, damn, that's wild. And I really, like, we didn't read all that religiously. We didn't read all that strictly. We were mostly playing Roblox and talking about, the other girls in the class.
I think
we did do some reading, but you know what I mean? It was the confidence that came with just being able to talk about life and figure it out for yourself. That power, it spills onto every other activity in life.
Yeah, and I think one important aspect you also mentioned is that, for example, with the reading now, that sometimes maybe particularly children in that context learn things way easier when the focus is not on actually learning that, so
play.
yeah,
are you referring to
play, or it could be just
for teenagers it's very often talking and conversation of some kind with peers, but yeah, for the 10 and under crowd, I would say play is like, for everybody, play is important for regardless of your age. But for children, young children, it is unfortunate that they don't get more time to play. It's very important to their development.
Yeah, I guess of course those kind of things are, like developmental psychology. I know you're also implementing that into, obviously as an educator in your approach. So maybe that's also an important aspect to tell people about, in that sense.
Yeah, that's true. I would say, so if you go to our website, the In Theory page describes the 10 different what's called them, influences and knowledge theories that have inspired and approaches. Okay, we'll call them approaches. Right, so the 10 approaches that have really made the most impact on the way that we work. Self-directed education is number 1. Community education, which is what I have my master's in, is also listed. But then there's like trauma-informed approach. There is anti-racism. There is inclusion. There is culturally responsive pedagogy, which talks a lot about being strengths-based and approaching and saying, okay, how does this serve you? How is this a strength? How is this helping you? Let's find that part and extrapolate on that instead of saying deficits-based, here's what you're bad at. Here's what good is that? Like, who thought of that? So the approaches in terms of how it works are listed there, and I think what you were just talking about kind of leans on the trauma informed a little bit, in the sense that and play-based also as one of the approaches. And so those two together, they kind of marry to have this, they conjoin to have this kind of blended approach of let's play to be more present and connected to ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and also definitely because, with certain ages, certain, needs and
So I
interests.
actually did list, I did study youth development and human development a little bit in college. But I don't list that as an approach because I don't think I'm well versed in it to the extent of like the other approaches. I would say the other approaches I have either some education or training or actual like an extent of professional experience where I'm practicing it actively and intentionally. Youth development, I think, was a big part of my work at Red Hook Initiative, a nonprofit in Brooklyn, where I was for on and off for 5 years, and they taught me so much. They definitely have a big approach. Their youth development very informed. They understand the different ages and how to scaffold and all that. They taught me a lot about that. But it's not listed, so just to like fact check that really quick. And developmental psychology, I would say I barely understand what that is. So
no, I think you probably use it a lot, but like you say, maybe not
right, not by name
not
exactly. Like I don't know the people associated with it, and stuff like that.
And it's also important to be nuanced because, of course, not everyone is at the same point in their development at the age they are expected to be. And I think definitely with neurodivergence and
that's so true.
Definitely children, for example, or people with a background of trauma, that can be or look really different. So
it can fast forward or it can kind of stunt. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So our last question here, we did who are you? Dom, Ianthe, we did who are you? We did what is your education history? We are educators who did not like school. How would you describe Off the Beaten Path? Okay, we talked about that. How does it work? Okay, it's one-on-one, it's self-directed. We talked about that. Why does it matter?
I mean, I think in that sense, I can use myself as a reference. I think it matters because there should be other possibilities than for people to just remain stuck or obligated in a direction or a path that they didn't really choose. I think, it should be more empowered to be able to make those choices as well and be able to say like, okay, this isn't working for me. Like, to advocate for that as well and choose yourself in that sense, whether that is as a young child or as an adult or even when you've reached an age, let's say that you're in retirement and you
that's right,
you don't know what you want to do in your life, or you feel like your path is not aligning with you. That's
right.
Yeah,
That's what we do. Yeah, and for me, I would say I love that answer. I think for me it is a lot about choice. But the answer I was thinking of was because everyone deserves to know their own power. Everyone deserves to know how powerful they are, how capable they are. And I'm not going to get too dark here, but it can get dark. I'll say that. Like, when you don't know how powerful you are, it can get bad. It can get bad. Like, health-wise, it can get really bad. And I've seen it in my learners, and I've seen it in some of my people that I know. And I've definitely seen it in myself. So that's why I think it matters, is like, everyone is powerful. We are all put on this earth to do, to know, to feel. And so many of us walk around so uncertain of what it is that we're so good at, what it is that we want, what it is that, how to do it, how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one-on-one support, it's just, especially self-directed one-on-one support, it really opens up some amazing road ahead.
Yeah, and also I think we're often made to feel incapable because we want to be able to do what everyone else is doing,
Right.
you know.
There's
Well,
a discrepancy between expectations and the reality of whatever us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's a painful disparity. So instead of that, right? Instead of that, why not open up to the possibility that if we make our own decisions and have help along the way, that it is totally possible and accessible to know our power, our intelligence, our
Mm-hmm.
genius, our talent, and know how to use it, and how to be gainful. You know, how to have gainful competitive employment, how to enjoy your days, enjoy your life, have a life worth living, as they say, right? Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Very important.
Yeah. I'm gonna shake your hands through the camera, please.
So thank
Okay,
you
thank you for
for
this conversation. I appreciated it.
me too.